I swear to God, all this morning just been so much noise, which may ruin a few videos. So please excuse the audio quality, but now I'm getting a moment of silence, so I will try to take advantage of it. I have a lot of things saved up, so I need to start editing those quickly, and I'm always torn between time. But enough about my problems. I'll do this yelling real quick. This is a very dark video, so just be forewarned, and I'm going to still do some censorship and going to try to be as devil's advocate as possible, though I got to be honest, like the person making this accusation, I don't think did as much research as I did on Toddie. And there's still a lot of things we don't know, but I'd have to say this has a lot more credibility than this person thinks. That said, this is an accusation, and I want to be very clear. It's an accusation, although one that seems to have quite a lot of evidence to back it up. Okay, so please give this channel a chance. Please give my other channels a chance. And yeah, there's no other way of putting it. So essentially, Toddie keeps getting into a lot of fights with YouTubers. Now, again, that's possible if you're fighting over principles. I'll be very brief if you're new to the Toddie1skip scam center, but the math don't math because the people who Toddie attacks have a lot of receipts, evidence, and Toddie keeps lying or distorting the truth about these people, whether it's Dawn, myself, case studies, aggressive defiance, and this other person. And I want to be very clear, we're dealing with secondhand material. So this person was sent an email by, I would assume the obvious, a woman who at the time was 15. And this is the story being relayed, that this young girl was apparently at a park on a swing set. Toddie approached her because she was singing and said, "Oh, you're a really good singer," and had promises to entice her to become a professional and a star. Invited this young girl back, presumably to an apartment or house, where Toddie proceeded to offer alcohol and marijuana. Now, I want to be very careful in this person's relation of the story, right? How they're relating the story of this young girl. At the time, they're saying they were pressured into taking the drugs and alcohol, which, okay, going to be totally brutal and blunt here. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Again, the onus is still on Toddie being the predator, but still, again, if that's what happened, that's what happened. But let's be honest, many kids do experiment with drugs and alcohol and marijuana. We don't know the side of this woman. Does she have a criminal record? Is she a liar, troubled teen? We don't know that. Again, the onus is still on Toddie, but let's at least be devil's advocate. But they say they were pressured to take the marijuana and alcohol while allegedly Toddie was offering these promises of stardom and being a singer. And apparently it got to the point that she was passing out. She didn't have total coherence. And Toddie proceeded to take off her clothing, do things to her. Again, we don't know how far, right? Is this kissing, caressing, how far? And even took photos of this young girl, presumably without her clothing or even with her clothing. And she's at the very least slightly drunk and slightly, right, due to the drugs. She's not altogether there. So these are a lot of crimes being committed all at once. And also, again, being total devil's advocate, did Toddie know this was a young girl? Because Toddie has been, to put it mildly, in a problematic situation. So let's keep it factual. There is an old audio. This is when Toddie is much younger, because Toddie now has very, very gray hair. This very gray Einsteinian hair, which I'm going to be totally blunt. I've mocked. Aggressive has mocked. Okay. But this is when Toddie was much younger, had darker hair, younger hair. So this is a while ago. And this is Toddie admitting this, that when Toddie was working at a prison system, he met a very young inmate. She was an adult, but he noticed that she had a very young looking face and said, "Oh, she looks like she's 12 years old. She's very young looking." Nothing happened with that girl, and they proceeded to get married. Although even that's a little iffy because Toddie's gay, this woman is also gay. Where they say they got married, gay marriage was not allowed, but they had some kind of relationship. But she was an adult. But she had a very young-looking face, but Toddie noticed how young-looking and was smirking that, yeah, she looks really good. She looks really young. That's a fact. That audio is real. That comes from Toddie's own mouth. But now let me proceed to give receipts. And again, if you want to become a channel member, I can be more uncensored, good or bad for channel members. They're not monetized videos. This is monetized. But even without monetization, YouTube is weird. Even if you're doing expose videos on predators, YouTube will censor things. So I have to be careful here. So here are some extra facts. And these are facts. That Toddie had an earlier career as an artist, folk singer, trying to do singing, filming. She actually released this film because people were finding out more and more about her. So we have her real name. She had a career in singing and apparently filmmaking, trying to be part of some artistic community. And I'll have to be also brutal and blunt. This is from my own experience. These are people who have worked in the record industry, the real music industry. They showed me, they proved it. Real producers, real musicians. And this guy was relating, again, it wasn't at the time, but he worked with a lot of people like Eminem. I think he worked with DMX as well. And he was telling me that he encountered this. That yes, it does happen. And this is in the real music industry, not like amateurs. Professionals will invite you to a studio or their place, apartment, and will just bluntly say it. Saying, okay, you're here. We want you to give us a sexual favor. Which this man proceeded not to do because he was actually trained in martial arts and basically beat the guy up. So this does happen. It is a frank thing in the music movie industry that people will ask bluntly for sexual favors in exchange for helping your career. That's bad enough. So I've heard from the horse's mouth and real people, this does happen. And this is the kind of atmosphere that Toddie was trying to be a part of. There are some additional things that we do know for a fact. Toddie has sung in public, and has clearly tried to sing and released songs. So Toddie does have a music background. Now, I'm not saying Toddie's a good singer, but Toddie does have a music background. And I've now heard various videos and audio recordings where Toddie admits to having some contacts in the music industry. Now, is it that much? We don't know. Again, it doesn't seem like Toddie ever was serious or did anything, frankly, of significance. But this story does have credibility that Toddie would have enough to fool a young girl, right? If they go back to this apartment or house, presumably Toddie does have these things, recording equipment or enough albums or whatever to make the story credible. So the story does have some credibility. But again, we don't know who the victim is. And no names are given. We need more specifics, right? Because we know a few things about Toddie. Toddie was in New York. Toddie was in Florida. So we need more specifics. But this person who this woman contacted did go to Toddie, email Toddie saying, okay, well, these are these accusations. What do you say? Toddie had no response. And Toddie was very, very vehement, which I'm sure is true, that Toddie has no criminal record. Okay. Right. That can be interpreted two ways. One, the person is really good, has broken no laws. Or two, you've broken the law, but you haven't been caught. And I'll be totally blunt here. We've all broken the law. Whether it's minor or small DUI, I've broken the law, you've broken the law. Sometimes people get caught and punished. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes people get wrongly imprisoned. So that's not very persuasive. If you have a clean record, it could just be like things were expunged or, okay, you weren't caught. So it could be a case here where Toddie just got away with it. Was able to victimize this young girl, and she's either too ashamed or didn't understand the laws and didn't understand you can still come forward years later. But the story does have credibility because Toddie does have this long history, not just with the music industry and performing, whatever you want to call it, the gay community, the arts community. And again, these things do happen in those communities. People don't want to talk about it, but gay predators do exist. I know people are like, well, that's a stereotype. Stereotypes are sometimes based in reason. The problem with a stereotype is going overboard or overgeneralizing. Now, I will say my own experience with Toddie is I found Toddie1skip to be a liar, to be lazy, to be constantly taking drugs and denying Toddie's taking. Why does she deny? It's pretty obvious. She's high on drugs. And moralizing about being on drugs. And moralizing about other people having criminal records. And there's a lot of things that are just shifty, because Toddie apparently does have a family with money, but she's living in a camper. So a lot of things are just not adding up. Like, why would your access to this money be restricted? And it does seem the obvious that this person does have a lot of addictions, which Toddie has admitted to. Toddie has admitted the horse's mouth, yes, I've had a drug problem in the past in my early 20s. But I think stating the obvious, even if Toddie was very young when this incident happened, it's still an underage victim. You're coercing someone. You're using drugs to basically knock someone out. So, I mean, the level of criminality here is pretty high. We're not just talking about the assault. We're talking about you have to basically, right, knock someone unconscious, and then possibly this, taking photos of this act for your private collection. And again, we're stating the facts here, that usually when we have adult predators, whether they're young, 20s, 30s, or 40s, the record, unfortunately, is not good. That if you tend to predate young girls or young boys, it tends to be a long list. It's very rare to find a predator who has just one-off victims. It usually tends to be at least several victims in. And we just don't know everything about Toddie. We know her real name. As she proudly states, we know I have no criminal record. And we know she has this kind of gay drug background. But again, I am finding more and more evidence that this is a much more disturbing figure than we thought. But again, let's be careful and factual. Toddie's very small. Physically, she is not. This is not Aaron Smith-Levin. It's not Wes Watson. It's not Dean the Great. It's not this hulking figure who can just grab a girl and do whatever. So, that's where we are. And this is an accusation. We're going to probe deeper. But this is out there. And now, when we have this accusation and the remark about the 12-year-old, it does get a lot more dark. It does. Again, I hate Toddie. I don't like Toddie. But I think we need to proceed carefully. If this is true, this is very alarming. First, is this still something legally that Toddie could go to jail for? But even if it's not, people should be warned. And there's something we said about accuracy and label. And this is what Toddie does. Allegedly hunting predators, exposing criminals and grifters, and keeping the community safe. And the gatekeeper here is literally a literal predator and been lying through her teeth for years and years and years.